Hello, everyone. I am here to talk to you about lactate threshold. A lot of people don't know what that means. They don't know, if they should be doing it, how to achieve it. So that is what we're going to talk about in today's vlog. I am here. My name is Kat Calm with Studio Sweat On Demand. I am a founder and a trainer for Studio Sweat and Studio Sweat On Demand. And I am here with Yael. Yael, go ahead. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name's Yael. I am an enthusiast trainer at Studio Sweat On Demand, and I've been with them for a little bit over a year now, but I have been an avid spinner and instructor for about 15 years here in Israel.
Awesome. Yael, what does lactate threshold mean?
Okay, so lactate threshold is actually the highest aerobic capacity that you can sustain for a long period of time. As we know, we have three systems that work simultaneously actually in our body. We have ATP-CP system, the glycolysis, and the aerobic system. So the lactate threshold is the threshold between the aerobic and the glycolysis. It's sort of like the highest potential possible line that you can draw in the aerobic system before heading into the next one. And what that means is really that it's your most efficient and effective type of exercise that you can sustain for endurance-wise for a longer period of time. And the oxygen in your body at that particular moment is working at its best and most optimal of being delivered to all the cells in your body and the muscle cells and things, to help you sustain and keep going on.
Got it. So between, and when you say that last level, you're talking about anaerobic zone. That's a term that people are quite familiar with, right? Okay.
Right. The real anaerobic lasts about 10 seconds, like glycolysis lasts for a couple of minutes, but the aerobic, you can really sustain it for a while.
Okay, Yael, let's talk about the benefits of training at that zone, that lactate threshold zone. What are the benefits?
So there's so many great benefits about training at the zone, which actually is something very new to me. I hadn't really put focus on it until recently, and I really have felt these benefits. First of all, it's burning fat as your fuel source, and therefore, because you're sustaining and you're working hard within that zone, you're also going to achieve a greater weight loss. It also helps with the efficiency of your whole system, so you get to be more fit. There's a higher level of fitness to it. As a matter of fact, I have a client that started training at this threshold level once a week, and within 3-4 weeks, she was able to see on her Fitbit that she went from very good to excellent.
Just by very good to excellent on as far as her aerobic capacity?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So
also the other benefits that we have from it, and I have actually experienced these, are it's a great mental exercise to sustain something steady without, trying to keep the heart rate at a set level, and working hard at the same time. It really requires focus. It requires intent, and actually for some people can be really therapeutic.
Yeah. It's a complete distraction. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. I love that. Very good. Did we cover all the benefits that you wanted to go over today?
One other benefit, I will just say that it really helped a lot of people that I started doing this with feel more confident and feel more accomplished.
Hey, that's great. I love that one. All right. So speaking of people, who should do lactate threshold training, Yael? Is it something everyone should do, or,
I'm a believer now, lactate threshold is for everybody.
You're a fan. All right.
I'm a big fan. And we will talk in a little bit about how to do it smartly. You don't just jump in to do it all gung-ho, at the most rigorous level. You have to build up to it, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But really, it's for everybody. Athletes actually spend a lot of their time. I believe I read somewhere it was about 80% of their time training in this zone. And so they can sustain this level of intensity for about an hour, 60 minutes. Your fit person, that's already fit, will probably be able to sustain 20 to 30 minutes.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'll tell you, a lot of the workouts that we do at Studio Sweat On Demand are right in the zone that you're talking about. And I do know that it depends on the athlete. It's everything that we do is an individual sport in some ways. So a lot of people, we talk about zone 2 training, which is different than lactate threshold training. And there are a lot of athletes that do spend more like 80% of their time doing zone 2 training and only 20% of their time in doing lactate threshold training. So it really depends also on the sport, I think, and what your goals are. And when we circle back to those benefits, and when you are in that lactate threshold zone, there's one other thing I do want to mention there. You are burning fat, but you're also burning carbs, right? There's this combination, and that's an entire another vlog. As a matter of fact, if you go to Studio Sweat On Demand and you go to the Trainer Tip videos, you'll see that's one of the topics that we cover there. But yeah, that is great. Okay, speaking of Studio Sweat On Demand, it is my favorite fitness app. And so if you would just take a second to watch this little ad, and then we'll come back and talk about how you can participate in this thing called lactate threshold training.
If you're looking for a convenient, motivating way to get or stay fit, Studio Sweat On Demand has a huge library of ad-free on-demand workouts with non-stop hot new releases, all featuring real people just like you. Start your 7-day free trial by downloading our app. It's risk-free with no credit card required. So get started today.
Yael, let's talk about how to do lactate threshold training. We talked about what it is and the benefits. Now, how do you do it?
Well, in terms of training towards it, the way you have to do it, the way I see it, if you've never done it before, you just have to start small increments of time. Okay. And the recovery to the effort level should be about half the time. So if you're doing a block of 4-minute lactate threshold training, then you recover for 4-2, or 5-3, something like that.
So 2 to 1 ratio, 2 working, 1 recovery.
Correct. Mm-hmm. And then you just increase. If you actually want to do a lactate threshold testing, like to kind of determine what is your heart rate at your lactate threshold, then there's a recommended test to do that, to help figure that out. And what you would do for that, I'll describe for the bike and I'll describe for the treadmill. So for the bike, what you would do is you would obviously warm up. And
meaning
then,
like a spin bike. We're talking about an indoor bike, you guys. Indoor cycling bike, yeah.
Correct. An indoor bike, correct. Yeah. Thank you. So you're going to actually spin for about 20 to 30 minutes at your rate of perceived exertion 7 to 8. So you don't want it to be so overwhelming that you cannot sustain that steady, momentum.
So 0 all day long. Speaking of the RPE scale, 0 means you could really do whatever activity is that you're doing all day long. 10 means you can't sustain it for longer than maybe 10 seconds. And she's saying you're at about a 7 or 8.
Exactly. You don't want to feel overwhelmed that you can't speak, that you're gasping, that you're out of breath. You want to be in control of your breath, but you want to feel it hard. Yeah. It should be challenging for you. Okay.
Well said. Yeah.
And then you would take if you're doing, let's say 30 minutes, you take the last 20 minutes and you take the average heart rate within that time span. And that's going to be your lactate threshold heart rate.
Perfect.
And this way, some people like to train in the lactate threshold zones. Yeah. Instead of your heart rate zone, which some people say it's like a little bit more, it's a little bit more accurate to you. Got it. The heart rate is a little bit more generic.
And how you can take your heart rate, just so you guys know, is you can wear a device, right? We at Studio Sweat On Demand, a lot of us use MyZone, but there's Polar devices, lots of Fitbits, lots of different devices on the market. You can also do old school, like take your pulse, right? 60 seconds, start at count of 0 and take your pulse. But you'd want to do that a couple of times to figure out what the lactate threshold number is for you based on what you're saying. Okay, good. Very good. So you could do the same thing. So you were talking about on a spin bike. Can you had specific recommendations for RPMs if you're doing this on a spin bike, right?
Oh yeah, the spin bike, usually it's recommended 80 to 95 RPM.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You don't want to go, you want to make sure, like really the key ingredient here is the power and not just the speed. So
you want to make sure you have some
speed,
resistance on. Yeah.
Exactly.
So she's not saying that you should be on a hill that's like this, but she's not saying you should be on a flat road either. She's saying basically, think about like a moderate incline, and that's going to be, the 80 to 90 RPM mark. A moderate incline with some road under the tire, you do want to have some resistance on. So moderate, I would say. I know that's a very generic term, but moderate resistance. Okay, what about if they're on the treadmill? Kind of the same.
And then on the treadmill, I guess it's a similar idea. You're going to warm up, and then you're going to find a pace that you can sustain for 20 to 30 minutes. That the fastest pace that you can sustain for about 30 minutes, and then you're going to do the same kind of thing in order to figure out your average heart rate at those 2 points. You would note your heart rate 10 minutes into your exercise to this half hour, and then at the end as well, and
last
then you
20 minutes of the 30 minutes. Got it. Understood. That's very cool. So it's very similar, by the way, to if anybody's done a VO2 max test. It's kind of similar to that, but a little lower level.
Right. Actually, I'll add a little plug there for the benefits that in the VO2 max, you're like, that's a little bit more dependent on your build. So there's only so much you can improve your VO2 max. But with your lactate threshold, there's no limit. Like you can just continue improving and improving. Take it to the limit.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Yael. I love that you brought that up. Okay. Question, how often should people do lactate threshold training?
I would say
X number of times per week.
I would say you start with one and, anywhere from 1 to 2, because it's really important to vary your workouts. You don't want to just start doing one thing and stick with that all the time. And it depends if you enjoy it or not. I would say minimum to 1. And if you really enjoy it, you can take it up to 2, unless, obviously if you have certain very specific fitness goals that you want to achieve, then you'd have to get in touch with a coach and see maybe you need to do a little more.
That's really good advice. Yeah, because don't forget, you've got to get your strength training and mobility in, and there's only so much time in the day, right? So I love it. And interval training is important, and endurance training. This is kind of endurance training, but I mean, some people want to do endurance training for, more like an hour. So this would be different than that. Okay, very good. I think I have asked you all the questions that I have for you. This is such great information, Yael. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we sign off?
Just put music you love and just go for it.
That's really great advice too. Yeah, if you can, once you get that, your threshold number, and you can find songs that match the RPMs to the BPMs, that's magic.
Yes,
that's a magic. That's really good advice. All right, so just wanted to remind you that we have a lot of workouts that are going to help take your fitness to the next level over on Studio Sweat On Demand. So make sure you download that app or visit studiosweatondemand.com, where you can get a free 7-day trial, and you'll see workouts there with Yael and myself as well. Yael, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a great day.
We're in different time zones, so I was going to say have a great day, but it's night for her. So, all right, you guys, signing off. See you over at Studio Sweat On Demand. Thanks, Yael.
Thank you.